We need border security. We need to make sure that the numbers of illegal aliens aren't growing, that our borders are secure and safe, and that's not happening. And the president is going to get, it looks like, based on what the news is, a little bit of a wall. It's amazing what happens when people are forced to actually defend their policies. You know, it's one thing for the left to say they are against the border wall, but President Trump put their nose to in their own mess in this regard with the government shutdown. And they didn't want that to happen again, so they gave President Trump, it looks like they'll be giving him a portion of the wall that he requested. Is it enough? No. And this is why President Trump needs to take additional action to secure the border. There are other things he can do to build walls down there under current provisions of law. He should do that. You know, we have been investigating, he was down in El Paso holding a big rally this week on the issue. Judicial Watch has been investigating the border security crisis at El Paso specifically for years. And trust me when I tell you that our investigation has found that El Paso is on the front lines in the border wars. It is a nexus for narco-terrorist activity. The local governments have been terribly corrupted down there. So think of El Paso's in West Texas. It's on the border with New Mexico. Fort Bliss is part of the El Paso area. And so when I talk about El Paso, I'm talking about El Paso proper. Across the border from Mexico, in Mexico from El Paso is Juarez, which is run by the cartels and a nightmare. And then El Paso on either side, you go to the west, you're heading out to New Mexico. There's little or no border security there. And you go out east down to Texas, down south along the river there, there's little or no border security there. There's obviously a barrier, or may not be obvious to you, but there's a barrier in El Paso. But on either side of El Paso are really throughways for their cartels to move drugs, human beings, and terrorists. Now, Judicial Watch has uncovered the fact that in our reporting that DEA said El Paso is a major hub for Mexican opioids and methamphetamine en route to the rest of the United States. Just a few days ago, U.S. Customs and Border Protection released figures showing that the El Paso sector, which as I've been describing, had an astonishing 1,500% increase in illegal immigration apprehensions during the first month of 2019 compared to the first month of 2018. Most of them are coming, the apprehensions are coming from Central America, not from Mexico. And of course, then you've got this issue where the cartels are moving special interest aliens into the United States. Essentially what they do is they move them to remote locations where they're later picked up. Now, these are not special interest aliens because they have interesting hobbies or great personalities. They're special interest aliens because they've behaved in a way to raise national security concerns by our security officials here in the United States. And we know they're being moved up because our sources say so into the United States by the cartels. We've also exposed ISIS and movement as well in that area. An ISIS training, it looks like, was going on across the border in that area as well. All of this we confirmed with really sound sourcing. Now, when we highlighted this, guess who was Congressman of El Paso at the time, or Congressman for El Paso at the time? Guess. Beto O'Rourke. And he didn't like us exposing the border crisis because he's a leftist. He evidently doesn't like the idea of border security. And what did O'Rourke do, according to our reports? He started calling the feds to suppress the information he thought we were getting from them, to try to intimidate our sources and stop what he thought was the leaking of information to Judicial Watch about the dire national security threat on the border. So I know Beto O'Rourke is the new hot item politically, But just you remember that. And you can go on our website and read about Mr. O'Rourke's, our battles with Beto O'Rourke. Was it Beto or Beto? I don't know. He's not Hispanic. But I think he seems to think that by calling himself Beto or walking around using that old nickname from his family, he can pretend to be Hispanic. I don't know. But I can tell you that he tried to interfere and intervened with the federal government and abused his power as a congressman to try to shut down Judicial Watch's investigations and exposés of the dire national security threat at the border. So I encourage you to go and read all of our El Paso material. My colleague Chris Farrell is the central figure in an excellent documentary on these issues called The Sun City Sale. The Sun City Cell. Judicial Watch helped get that out. It's a great documentary. You need to go online and read it. It's available on YouTube. We'll place a link on it here. So I don't know what's going to happen with the border wall. I suspect the president is going to take what he can get out of Congress and just move ahead and build what he can under the law, in addition to the support he's getting from Congress. But it's essential that we take care of that issue, given the terrorists and the humanitarian crisis down there, and obviously the drug crisis as well. We need to secure our borders if we're going to have a country that will want to call home over the next generation.